Hey everyone, welcome back to Teen TV Deep Dive. I'm your host Alyssa, and here on this podcast we talk about all things Teen TV. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite shows. I was kind of nervous about bringing it up on the podcast just because of the maturity rating, but I really love talking about the show, and I have so many opinions to share. So today we're going to be talking about the show, HBO Max original, The X Lives of College Girls. For namesakes of the show and just keeping it appropriate, we're just going to be calling it College Girls. Yeah. First, I wanted to talk about what the show is as a whole. So it follows this four girls. They're all entering their first year of college. They go to this college called Essex. Quite funny. But it's a small school in Vermont. All of them are really different, but they live in the suite. That's what they have in common, and that's why they're all friends. But there are four girls: Kimberly, Bella, Leighton, and Whitney, and they're all vastly different. But I think that's what makes the show work. So yeah, we're gonna be just talking about character by character and some of the most major problems or character arcs that they go through throughout this first season, and my opinions that I've had along the way. So starting off, I wanted to talk about Kimberly. At the start of the show, she's like really bright eyed and bushy tailed. She's really eager to just be around a different group of people because she's from a really small town in Arizona. And her expectations for Essex is for her to just be learning so much and to be around so many new people. And she was just ready to get in the mix, I guess. But for Kimberly, as we see, some of her biggest struggles in the first season is fitting in. She has this kind of quirky, kind of almost goody two shoes vibe to her. And for a lot of people, when they go to college, they're away from their parents for the first time. So, college, they see it as a time to let loose and be wild. And Kimberly is just not the type of girl to get super loosey goosey and wild. So, she struggles to find the right friends and just kind of where she belongs in college and just as an adult in general. Also, something that we notice with Kimberly is that she struggles to fit in just because of her family background and just the amount of money her family has. Because Essex is a school that's known to have a lot of more wealthy students, and because Kimberly is not, she finds it hard to relate to other people. She's one of the few people that she knows that had to go through the work study program at her school, and so basically she has to work, and that work and labor that she does ends up being able to help her and her family out with her tuition. So that's another thing that kind of makes her an oddball out. And also, we see that Kimberly is going through her first serious romantic relationship. We did see that she had a high school boyfriend before coming to college, but to be honest, she didn't really like him like that. So when they broke up, they had their things. She was minorly upset in the moment, but in the long run, Kimberly did not care for real. Now moving on to like her most major problem of the show ends up being when she has this crush on Leighton's brother Nico. She's another character we're going to talk about later on. But um she sees him and she's like, "Oh, he would never like me. So what's the point of even trying to return the energy out to like put that energy out there?" But it turns out he was feeling her. Nico was feeling Kimberly, and they were kind of messing around for a while. And turns out that Nico had a whole nother girlfriend. He was very much in a committed relationship. And it really hurt Kimberly because she thought they were starting to connect on an emotional level as well as physical. But to find out that it wasn't, Nico wasn't being faithful to his girlfriend and he was just kind of playing in Kimberly's face, that made her really upset. And I think after finding out about that, that's when Kimberly really had her very first heartbreak. Not just because she actually did care for Nico and like him, but also just because she was getting so wrapped up in Nico that she was letting all her other responsibilities fall to the wayside. We know Kimberly to be very smart and school just to be really her thing where she shines. And her grades were dropping, and because she was spending all her time with Nico, as well as not being able to qualify for her academic scholarships, and those merit-based scholarships is what really allows Kimberly to be there and to attend Essex. She's missing out on all of that money because her grades are failing. Then she ends up getting caught cheating on a big exam, I'm pretty sure. And so that puts her in even more trouble, and she doesn't know where she currently stands in the school. And so I think overall, Kimberly's biggest growth from where she started to where season 1 ended is that she's not as naive as she used to be. And she's kind of starting to grapple the realities of adulthood. While it can be a little bit harsh, she's accepting that you have to balance your financial, academic, social, emotional responsibilities all at once. And while it can be hard, it's a part of adulthood. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the Queen, Bella Malhotra. So, starting in again, Bella is really excited to go to college. She's very much confident. She wants to be out there. She wants to experiment and socialize. But more importantly, she's really wanting to break into the comedy world. Her dream is of working on SNL and just wanted to have a career in comedy. So she really wants to be in this comedy group at their school called The Catalan, and it's basically like this humor magazine. But a lot of the Catalan people are males, and it's just a male-dominated club. And Bella being also Indian, it also adds an impact on her because while it's majority men, but they're also white at the same time. So her just struggling to be the minority of the group and kind of finding her footing in a male-dominated field is a big struggle that she has. I also feel like another thing that Bella deals with is struggling with imposter syndrome because while she portrays herself to be this um like bigger, bolder than life type of girl, and she goes to the Kentucky, she feels like she has to shrink herself down in order to fit, and she's not being her true authentic self when she's there. So I feel like she struggles a lot with I got into the Catalan and it was what I really wanted and what I dreamed of, but at what cost? So the largest part that we see Bella struggling with is after she kind of deals with all the misogynistic culture at the Catalan, and she branches off and she wants to start her own like women run comedy magazine. She feels like she's reclaiming her power that she lost following the Catalan, but also now we see her kind of getting into this more toxic power dynamic because she feels like she's the founder of this comedy group. She feels like she has all the power, and what she felt like she was being neglected of and kind of deprived of at the Catalan, which was having a voice. She ends up doing the same thing to the other fellow members at her own comedy group. So I think Bella, by the end of season 1, is kind of let go of her initial things that she was looking for validation in, which was finding comedy and wanting to be a part of a group. She now is kind of branching away from that, and she wants to be her own person and kind of navigate the comedy world that way. Next, we're going to be talking about Leighton Murray. She is like the typical mean girl that you would expect. She's very much privileged, overconfident, but Leighton has a really big secret. And it's the fact that she's a lesbian, but she hides that part of herself because she wants to maintain this perfect image that she has worked so hard to create for herself. I think a lot of Leighton's struggles revolves around internalized homophobia and just kind of feel like viewing her orientation um to be something bad or like shameful that she should hide from her personality, other than to just have it out there and it is what it is. Like, it doesn't define me, and it's just one small aspect of who I am on a way bigger scale. And so over the course of the season, we see that Leighton ends up getting drunk. She destroys like this statue at their school, this really random statue. So she's assigned to do community service at the women's center at their school. And basically it's for all women or just people who don't identify as male, non-binary, all of all of those people kind of meet at this women's center, and they talk about their problems, struggles, worries, and just overall have a sense of community for people who are like them. And Leighton, of course, hates it. It's not what she stands for. She feels like it's dumb and she kind of writes it off. But there's this one girl there, Alicia, who feels like Leighton could really learn something from being at the women's center. And she also just feels like there's something deeper to Leighton than what she's letting on the outside. And so over time, of course, her and Leighton kind of have this little budding romance, but Leighton, of course, shuts it down because she's like, no, no one can know that I'm gay. I don't want that out there. Like, that's not how I want people to see me. And by the end of season 1, I definitely do think that she's taken a bigger step forward by coming out to Kimberly, but she's still on that journey of finding herself and just having self acceptance overall. Moving on, we're going to talk about our last girl, which is Whitney Chase. So she is a star soccer player and also the senator's daughter. And at first, we could tell that she really hates having that connection to her mom. She feels like it makes people want to talk to her and favor her over a title that Whitney feels like she doesn't really have any effect over. Over the season, we see that Whitney struggles a lot with just her emotions after she has an affair with her soccer coach, as well as her trust issues and just being able to be her own person outside of a student athlete. Um, at first she has a relationship with her soccer coach, and while at first it seems fun, but it turns out he has a wife. And so now Whitney feels a way because not only are they already doing something wrong by having an inappropriate relationship between coach and player, but now it's also becoming a morality thing with having with having Dalton be a married man, and Whitney is a really young girl and he was messing around with her, and it just causes a lot of emotional turmoil for her during the relationship, but also the aftermath after Dalton decides to cut things off with Whitney and still try and be in his marriage. I also think that Whitney just struggles to find an identity outside of being a student athlete. So much of her life has been dedicated to soccer and it kind of takes up her whole schedule. But after a while, Whitney kind of takes a step back and she's like, well, who am I without soccer? And the honest answer is she really doesn't know. Majority of Whitney's character development this season is learning to make new friendships. I see she makes new friendships outside of the suite, but also with her suite mates as well, and having a new relationship with the character named Kanan. He is a side character, I guess you could call him. And also, she starts to take her grades more seriously. She's definitely more locked in. We can see in that first season, by the end, before the start. And also she's just separating her self-worth from her romantic validation, because whenever her things were bad between her and Dalton, she felt bad about herself, but then when things were good, she felt really good. So it was just kind of detaching those two totally separate things and actually treating them as separate entities for her. By the end, I feel like Whitney is definitely more independent. She doesn't let her mom's expectations, her whole identity being surrounded by soccer, or also just putting so much emphasis on her relationships. I think she's more of her own person now. And so I really love that. I love all of them. I don't really know who would be my favorite because I have so many characteristics that I could find in each one of them that I'm like, oh yeah, I love that about her. So I think I'll just say something nice about all of them. I'm acting like they're real people, but I'll just say something nice about all of them. I like Kimberly's just openness to being 100% herself. Yeah, she's a little bit quirky. Yeah, she's a little bit weird, but she owns it and she likes it. And I really appreciate that about her. And it's kind of similar, but I like Bella's just boldness that she has. She doesn't really care what anybody else thinks about her. She's just her. And I really love that. And I like how after trying to shrink herself down, she instantly realized that that's wrong and she became her own person and it was bigger and better than ever. I like Leighton's sense of humor and just her brutal honesty. She tells people like what it is and she doesn't sugarcoat it. And I think it's honestly sometimes needed because these girls can be a little bit delulu. And I like how Leighton keeps them all grounded. And my next would be Whitney. I feel like she definitely had, I wouldn't say she went through the most, but I would say she was definitely weighed down by a lot of people's opinions and expectations of her. And just seeing her determination to break free from all of those was really respectable. So I love that about Whitney as well. But yeah, overall, this is a really good show. I find myself rewatching it constantly just because of how entertaining it is, but also just how it positively depicts female friendship. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.